I'm back again today with another recommendation video for specific categories of horror films, and today's category is horror on the road. So this will center around films where maybe the main characters go on a road trip, maybe they get into a car accident, or maybe they're just trapped in a car or trapped on the road. This category in particular is kind of a comfort category for me because I feel like growing up in the 2000s there were so many horror films that fit into this category, and you will see some of them because I just had to include some of my favorites. So there will be ones that are slightly more popular, but I also have tried to include some underrated choices in here as well. As always with my film recommendation videos, I don't include any spoilers. I will show a few clips of the trailers, but I will try to make sure that I don't show anything that could be considered a spoiler. So starting off, my first recommendation is a film called Alone. Jessica is driving through a rural mountain highway when she comes across an aggressive man in a Jeep who almost causes her to crash. Luckily, she manages to get away and make it to her motel for the night. Weirdly, as she is leaving the motel, the man is there trying to apologize. This isn't the first time that we've seen him again since the incident. He definitely seems to be following her, but Jessica brushes this off and continues with her journey, but it's not long before she sees this relentless psychopath again. Although this story is kind of straightforward and it's definitely not the most original, it will have you on the edge of your seat. It is a very tense cat and mouse chase situation. I definitely think what makes this film so much more scary is that it is a completely unprovoked attack. This man is just targeting this woman for no reason at all. I guess his reason is literally because she happened to be driving on the same road that he was on, but he does seem like a normalish man, which does make it like 10 times more scary than someone who actually sets out with a motive. And it is almost like it could be based off of a true crime story. I definitely found myself holding my breath in this film. I do have to mention that this film poster is very similar to a book cover, a book called Run on Red, which is a book that I really enjoyed. It is a book that actually would fit into this list as well, so if you read and want something that fits into this category, then read Run on Red because I really enjoyed it, so I definitely would recommend. This was released in 2020, which kind of surprised me when I saw that because it really feels like it was released a lot earlier. It does feel like 2000s film or maybe a 2010s film. You can stream Alone on Amazon Prime. My next recommendation is a film called The Toll. During a late night taxi trip, a woman finds herself trapped alone with a socially awkward driver when the cab breaks down in the middle of nowhere. It's not long before she realizes this is actually the least of her problems as they are visited by a supernatural threat. I would say this is kind of a cheesy comfort watch. It isn't anything amazing, but it is very entertaining and it leaves you wanting to know what the hell is going on. It hasn't got the highest budget or production, but I think the execution is really impressive for what they had. There are some really creepy moments. The main characters are really isolated, although they aren't alone, but it's not people that they are surrounded by. I did enjoy that there were some twists that got me off guard. I'm not gonna lie, this film was on my watch list for quite a while. I had been putting it off a bit just because I thought it did look a bit too cheesy, although it was cheesy, but it ended up being kind of cheesy in a good way because I ended up enjoying it so much more than I thought. It reminded me a lot of the film Wind Chill. This kind of has the same premise with being stuck on the road and there being a paranormal threat, but Wind Chill is set in a massive snowstorm, so I usually watch that one around Christmas, as well as another one that I'm going to talk about. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that quickly because if you like the film Wind Chill, then I think you will like this one. The Toll is available to watch on Shudder. My third recommendation is Dead End. A family sets off on a road trip on Christmas Eve to arrive and spend Christmas with the rest of their family. But things start getting weird when they find themselves on a never-ending road whilst being pursued by something paranormal. There are quite a few different horror elements, which is quite fun because we have some paranormal, we have some psychological, a bit of gore, and also mystery as we are trying to work out what's going on alongside the family. I found some moments in this film really creepy. It is a very dark film. There is a lot set at night, so it's definitely best watched in the dark, and also you probably will have to watch it in the dark to actually be able to see what's going on. You may recognise Lynn Shay, who's in this film. She is very well known for being in the Insidious franchise as well as loads of other films, but she is absolutely iconic in the Insidious franchise and she's just an incredible actor anyway. She is so good in the genre. Some of the script is a little bit cheesy, but I personally think it works well in this film. It just makes it a little bit more entertaining and gives it a charm. This is a film that I have spoken about before. I mainly recommend it around Christmas because of course it is set on Christmas Eve, and I honestly do usually just save my rewatches for around Christmas, but it is kind of unnecessary because there's not actually that many Christmas elements to it other than just the time period it's set in. So you can definitely watch this one all year round. I wanted to put in where you can stream this film, but I actually can't find anywhere that you can currently stream it. I used to think it was on Shudder or Amazon Prime, but maybe they've taken it off. Hopefully they will put it back on there. Maybe it will be back on there around Christmas. But I did find that you can get a secondhand DVD of it on eBay for less than £4. So that's kind of like the same price that you would pay if you were going to rent this film on like Amazon or something. So that's not too bad. If you really want to watch this film and have a DVD player, then that is always an option. Hopefully it will be back on streaming soon. My next recommendation is one that is a little bit more well known, but I just had to include it, and that's The Hitcher from 2007. A young couple give a ride to a hitchhiker as they travel through New Mexico, but the man that they picked up ends up being a complete psychopathic killer. They manage to get him out of their car, but that's unfortunately not the last time they see him. This is the remake I'm talking about. This just has a special place in my heart. I know a lot of people may prefer the original, but I just think this one is so good. I grew up watching it. I watched it as a teen. I would rewatch it over and over again, and I still really love it now. I think it still holds up. There's actually so much action in this film, like car chases, explosions, some really intense and crazy scenes. There are some parts that are definitely quite unrealistic and unbelievable. There is also a little bit of gore. There isn't tons, but there is some here and there sprinkled in. I really love the two main characters, especially the main character Grace. She is such a strong and resilient character. It's also really interesting when the Hitcher is on the screen. I think that the Hitcher, obviously the film is quite popular and a lot of people know of this film or the original, but I feel like the villain of the Hitcher is quite underrated. Like nobody really mentions him when we're talking about villains in horror films, but I think he is absolutely terrifying. The soundtrack for this film is incredible. I highly recommend looking up the soundtrack on Spotify because there are some absolute bangers. It starts with a banger and has some really good songs throughout, especially during like the car chase scenes and things like that. As I said, this film is quite action-packed, and that definitely doesn't go away. At the end of the film, we have a really intense and big ending. It is very iconic. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil anything, but this is definitely one of my favourite endings from any 2000s horror film. The Hitcher is available to rent on Prime, YouTube, Apple and Google Play Movies. My next recommendation is a little bit different from the rest on this list, and that is Crash. After getting in a life-threatening car accident, a director discovers an underground group of people who get pleasure through car accidents. But how far will these people go for pleasure? This is directed by David Cronenberg, so you just know that it is going to be a bit weird. It's definitely a unique concept. It's not completely action-packed throughout. Of course, there are some action-packed moments because this film is literally about car crashes, but there is a lot of in between. Saying that, I was still absolutely glued to the screen because of how interesting and unusual this film was. You just want to know how far these people are going to go and how far that they are going to take this obsession. Like many Cronenberg films, there is some really intense and grotesque body horror scenes, some that are just really cringeworthy, involving different body parts in all kinds of freaky ways. There truly isn't anything else like this film, not that I've seen anyway. I probably wouldn't say this is a straight up horror film. It is very genre bending. It does have elements of horror, like with the body horror and it kind of being weird and psychological, but it is more of a drama thriller, a bit of romance too. Crash is available to stream for free on Tubi. My next recommendation is definitely my favourite on the list, and that is Joyride, also known as Roadkill. A group of friends are on a long distance road trip across America. Their radio starts to pick up conversations from truckers around them, and they decide it may be funny to prank one of the trucker men. One of the young guys from the group gets on the radio to talk to the trucker, pretending to be a woman by putting on a fake voice. Their prank is successful, but they end up taking it too far when they tell the trucker to meet the made-up girl at a motel. Things take a nasty turn when they realise that this trucker is a violent madman. This is such a fun and entertaining watch. If you're looking looking for something that isn't too deep, that you can just throw on and have a good time to, then this is definitely one that I would recommend. It's not too intense. Obviously, it is still a horror film, but there are some comedy elements. It's not a horror comedy, but there are quite a few scenes that have me laughing. You'll find yourself becoming quickly invested in the characters and even in the villain. It's weird because there are times in this film where you do even feel connected to the villain because you kind of feel bad for him about the prank, although he is awful, so maybe that's just me. There are quite a few memorable scenes. There is a lot that happens, which I do think is quite impressive for a film where the premise is literally just kind of a chase on the road. It doesn't fall flat at the end either. There is a really tense and intense final scene. This is definitely one of the ones that is a little bit more popular on this list, but I just had to include it because I really love this film, and if by chance you haven't seen it and like this kind of premise, then I definitely recommend that you watch it. You can rent Roadkill on Apple TV and Google Play Movies. My next recommendation is a film called Spree. Kurt is desperate to become a popular social media influencer, so much so that he will go to extreme measures to gain views. He devises a plan to set up cameras all around his car, which he uses for his job as a spree driver, which is basically an Uber driver. He starts live streaming the inside of his car during his shifts, but there really is just no end to his obsession. This is of course found footage because it is all set through Kurt's cameras. This is really cool because we get to see lots of different unique angles from the cameras that are set up around his car. I really love horror films about social media, especially when it is the influencer filming themselves. It's just so modern and current, and I feel like it is very relevant. I feel like this could definitely happen. Joe Keery plays the main character of Kurt. I'm pretty sure this is one of the first roles that I've seen him in besides Stranger Things. It does show that he definitely has range as an actor, and it makes me really excited to see him in future projects, hopefully more horror films. There is a bit of gore in this film, and although it does have some darker themes, it is a horror comedy, so it never really gets too deep or is too much because the comedic elements definitely lighten it up. You can stream Spree on Prime Video. My next recommendation is another one that is a little bit more popular, and that is the film Wolf Creek. In this Australian horror film, we follow three backpackers who are travelling in the Australian outback. Their car ends up breaking down, but they are met with a helpful stranger who insists that they go back to his camp with him so he can help sort out their car. This ends up being a decision that the three friends regret because little do they know they are in the company of a serial killer. This film is actually loosely based on real events, which is absolutely terrifying. It's based on real life murders of backpackers, but I think that is just more inspiration for the film because there is a lot made up just for this film, like the villain, that is Mick Taylor. He is played by John Jarrett, and he gives such a believable, spine-chilling performance. You really hate this slimy, gross, weird killer. He is just so matter-of-fact about things. He just doesn't seem fazed by much, which just makes him so much more scary. This film is definitely not shy on the violence. There is a lot of gore. There is also a second film which is kind of similar. It kind of has the same sort of premise, and that also has a lot of gore and is quite intense as well. I would say the first one is definitely a lot better, but they are quite fun to watch as a double bill. There's also a TV series based off of this now as well. I actually watched a little bit of the first episode, but I haven't watched much of it. Maybe I should. If you've seen it and it's good, then please let me know. You can rent this film on the Sky Store, or you can buy it on Prime Video. So I think I'm going to leave it here. Please do let me know if you would like a part 2, and as always, please do let me know if you have any recommendations that would fit in well to this list, especially if they are underrated. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in another one soon.